Hello, I'm Nick Bright and welcome to Inside Gooners, sponsored by talkSPORT Bet, and we're into another international break, but we've still, as always, got so much to discuss on this week's episode. Joining the show this week is, of course, Clive Palmer, and a warm welcome to author, journalist and mastermind behind the Inside Arsenal YouTube channel. It is, of course, Charles Watts. Hello. Both.
Hello, Nick.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Look, I think we should kick things off with just getting into Sunderland right away. We've had a little bit of time to digest it. We'll look back at what unravelled at the Stadium of Light on Saturday night. A 2-2 draw. It stopped our winning streak in its tracks, but it gives us a 4-point gap at the top of the Premier League table. Charles, I'll start with you. The main feeling, weirdly, and I guess it kind of shows us where we are now as a club. The main feeling from a lot of Arsenal fans is disappointment. But is it important to relax, considering Sunderland are flying? It was a difficult atmosphere to play in, and it was, I think, their first game at the Stadium of Light against a, quote, big club. So, is it a point gained?
I don't know if it was a point gained. I'm not sure you can look at it like that when you concede a 94th minute equaliser, but I do think it wasn't as sort of disappointing, certainly from my point of view, as sort of some people took that result as. The sort of main point of frustration that I had in that was just knowing how big I feel that win would have been if Arsenal held on to it. I think it would have been massive mentally, psychologically, obviously 3 really valuable points as well going into the international break. And if they'd have held on, I just think it would have given everyone such a boost. It would have been such an important win to come from behind after a disappointing first half in a really difficult stadium. But then, it's never nice, is it? It's a bit of a sting in the tail when you concede so late, having done so much and worked so hard to get yourselves back in front in that second half. So I can understand sort of the disappointment of it, but I think you have to take a step back and sort of reflect a little bit, maybe a day later, and look at the run that Arsenal have been on between the 2 international breaks. Look at what they've done in that time, the wins they've had, the clean sheets they've had, how they've extended their lead over all of what you would consider would be their sort of title rivals or title challengers during that period. It's been a really good run, and that was the end of a really demanding week last week. It's a shame they didn't hold on, but if we look back and that's like one of the biggest disappointments of the season at the end of the season, then I think we're going to have a very, very good year.
Yeah. Clive, are you kind of in agreement with Charles there? Just, it's one of those things. It's disappointing that we didn't manage to hang on. A little bit like, the momentum could have changed so much. The last time we were in the Northeast, when we played Newcastle, we saw the belief that gave us when we turned it around and we got the victory up there. It's a shame we couldn't do the same this time.
Yeah, from a result perspective, we all want a little bit more because we all expect to win every game, right? That's what we all want, but it doesn't always happen. And if anything, the 2 performances in the North East are giving me the most encouragement. I thought the Newcastle game, I thought we were excellent in that game, in open play in the first half. Obviously, we walk away with the 2 set-piece goals. Everyone thinks it's a continuity from what we always do. But if you look at that game again, I thought we were brilliant in the circumstances, in the environment, in the atmosphere. And similar to Sunderland, we didn't get the result. The performance in the second half was excellent, and it's exactly what you want. And I'd much prefer, if you take the Manchester United game away, we won the game, but the performance left us a little bit, that was a bit tough. Whereas this game, I thought we were much better than in that first game, for example. So I was really encouraged, particularly offensively, given the fact that we know we're light up front, yet those guys pulled out another performance and nearly won us the game. If anything, defensively, we looked a bit fatigued towards the end, and that maybe let us down slightly. But let's tip our hats to Sunderland, who really didn't shy away. They put us under pressure. They changed their forwards. They made us defend. And I really enjoyed the game. And if there's more games like that in the Premier League, rather than smaller teams, per se, carrying away from bigger teams and not even trying to play them, and we just see deep block after deep block, I think Sunderland were really brave and courageous. And I think they deserved their point.
Yeah, it was a great point for Sunderland, to be fair, and a really interesting point raised about teams going for it. These teams that come up actually trying to attack rather than the low block. Charles, interesting, isn't it? After so long, so many clean sheets in a row, it's a newly promoted team that actually stopped that, and not once but twice.
Yeah, I mean, they were both kind of similar goals as well. It was balls deep into the box. Arsenal didn't win the first header, and Sunderland got on the knockdown and scored. Obviously, two very different finishes, brilliant finishes by both. To be honest, fair play to them. But it was strange to see Arsenal a little bit sort of ruffled up a little bit, and we haven't really seen that from Arsenal's defenders of late. But Sunderland were very, very direct. I mean, they set their stall out very early on. I think they had a free kick. I think it was a free kick within a few minutes, and the camera sort of pointed to Granit Xhaka, who was just telling everyone get into the box, and the keeper came and launched it straight into the box early doors, when normally from deep inside your own half, you'd be at that stage of the game, it'd just be quick free kick and try and build up play. But I think they had a clear pattern of play. They knew how they wanted to try and unsettle Arsenal, and it worked. Fair play to them. And as Clive said, sometimes you've got to hold your hands up a little bit and say, you know what, maybe this team deserved to get that moment at the end, because they did have a go. They didn't shy away against I mean, how many times we sat here and just seen Arsenal toil against low block after low block, and a team just kind of accepting, okay, we're going to not play for 90 minutes. Sunderland didn't do that, and they got their rewards. So sometimes you do have to hold your hands up and say, well done, credit to them. And, I would very much like to see other teams do that against Arsenal between now and the end of the season. Is
that a worry, though, Clive? Now that Sunderland have kind of showed that, this defence, it's not invincible, it can be breached, and they did it in their style, similar goals, as Charles just pointed out. Is this kind of the blueprint, I guess, to play against this Arsenal side?
Yeah, I'm not worried, because I think we are well suited to the long ball game. We were just a little bit off, particularly on the first goal. I felt we didn't attack the ball at its highest point. We should never let a ball bounce around the air. We all know the rules as kids, don't we? Never let the ball bounce there, because then you're at the hostage of events. And can you get to the second ball? And they reacted really, really well. We lacked a bit of alertness in that situation. I don't think there's any club suited to a more physical long ball game than us, right? Given the way our defenders attack the ball and our fullback size and what we have in front of the defence. I mean, Zubimendi's aerial challenges are excellent. They just caught us on the day, and they have a trump card. People talk about Gabriel with us, but I thought Dan Ballard, he was a focus for a lot of their free kicks. And it's not about winning the ball always. It's about affecting the exit, affecting the clearance, and the ball then drops, and you have to fight for those crumbs on the table, right? And sometimes they got to them, and sometimes we did. I personally, I'm encouraged, and Charles sort of alluding to it. We want teams to attack us a bit, because there's another side of ours so that we can transition on. Maybe we lack some of those transitional legs in this game because they were fit. But when we have those legs, I think we're going to take a lot of teams. So take your choice. It's up to us to execute depending on what the game is on offer.
Yeah, in a weird twist of fate, Dan Ballard, Hale End, delivering yet again, I guess. Yeah. It's just the talent factory. One of the things that's kind of floating around online at the moment since the game is the substitutions. Just the one substitute in the game, Mascara came on, which meant we sat a lot deeper. Charles, do you think Arteta should be looking at himself for the decisions made when it comes to substitutions in that match?
I'm kind of on the fence about this one, because I can see why he didn't when you're looking at what he had on the bench, but there were substitutions or potential substitutions there that I think he probably could have turned to that could have changed things a little bit. Obviously, attacking wise, he was very, very stretched, and I've seen people saying Ethan Waneri should have come on. I'm not on that sort of one, because I just think the game would have bypassed him by that point. Sunderland were trailing, they were bypassing the sort of midfield area. It was just long balls into the box, and I don't see Ethan being able to help with that, and I don't see him really being able to progress the ball forward when it did come forward to him. But I think when you look at what sort of defensive options Arsenal had on the bench, they could maybe then have changed things a little bit, freshened things up a little bit. Christian Norgard was there as well, who's obviously very good at dealing with the aerial threat. Has shown that before at Brentford. Even someone like Miles, who could come on. He's so strong on the ball. He's so difficult to get off the ball, and he can progress it forward and ease the pressure that way. Nkapie is an experienced defender. Ben White was there unused. The players on the pitch there had been through a really big week, 3 away games, including a European match in the middle of it. So you had travel thrown into it as well. So maybe Mikel could have done something a little bit differently. But I can also, from his point of view, see him looking at it thinking, you know what, there's a few minutes left here. Let's just try and get this lot to give absolutely everything. I don't want to change things too much. I know how the last 10 minutes of this game is going to go. So I can see why he didn't. But sort of personally, in my view, I felt like there was probably a couple of changes there that he left on the table that could maybe have made a difference. But, we'll never know.
Yeah, Clive, it's almost like he wanted to hold out because it was, it's an international, we're going into an international break. So it's like he wanted those players on the pitch to give him everything just before he sends them away, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, if you think it from his perspective, we just had 8 clean sheets, was it? He's got a lot of confidence in these guys, right? We talk about records are about to be broken until before this game. And so you can understand his confidence. And when you don't win, there's always a conversation about what could you have done. And then we make this assumption that the substitute's going to come on and just be perfect. What if the substitutes have come on and just started to then thrown one in or missed a man or just didn't quite stay in touch? I mean, I agree. If there's one change I would have made, just because I think we've got this player in Norgard for just this scenario to help organise a defensive effort. If we've committed from minute 87, 88, we're now going to a back five and we're now going to just defend, then commit to it. I thought we could have made more than one change at that point. Again, hindsight, I did a rewatch of the game yesterday and Timber was lagging towards the end of that game. Just a little bit tired. Nothing to do with the goal. Just looked a little bit fatigued. And I just look at Ben White, I think, could you come on at that time and say, okay, if you don't like the back five, then that's fine. But once we commit to it, then commit. Commit to that defence and throw everything at it. But I must admit, Sunderland weren't peppering us. They had only a few box entries in the second half. We just didn't manage it very well. And it happens. It's football. It's football.
But Ben White's an interesting one, isn't he? He's kind of gone from being one of Arteta's most trusted players. Arteta was playing Ben White when he was injured. We all know that before he had surgery, because he trusted him so much. And I guess he didn't have as many options as he does now, Charles. But it's funny that Ben White seems so out of favour now.
Yeah, I do think it's an interesting one with Ben. Now, I was up at the Burnley game last weekend, and after the game, I was still sat in the press box long after everyone else had gone down. I was recording a video out there. And I watched Ben come out on the pitch with a fitness coach. Everyone else had gone. Like, none of the other substitutes were involved. Like, sometimes the subs come out and do a warm down before getting on the coach to go home. But Ben White was completely on his own with a fitness coach, doing a really intense session with him. And I was watching now. I was just thinking, this is odd. I've not seen this really before. Just one sort of single player doing this. And I just do wonder if they're still really taking their time with Ben before they properly introduce him back into the team to make sure that when they do it, he is absolutely ready and that he is not going to break down again and then leaves them short for half a season. So I just wonder if there's something like that going on, because I don't believe that he's suddenly fallen out of, Mikel suddenly doesn't trust Ben White anymore. He loves Ben White. He's played him an awful lot. And you know what you're going to get from Ben White. There's no reason for him not to trust him. He's still a very good player in pre-season. I mean, Mikel said it the other day in a press conference that in pre-season when Ben White was playing, he was arguably Arsenal's best player of the summer. So I don't believe there's anything to do with a lack of trust or anything like that. I just feel like it must be down to the fitness, to the injuries, and Arsenal just wanting to make sure that when they do properly introduce him, that he is ready, because I just don't see another reason for it.
Yeah,
I was really surprised he didn't play in the Champions League game in midweek. I absolutely had him penciled in for that game. For him not to be involved in that, to start that game and to play Timber in all 3 at the away games, just made me think there must be a fitness issue.
Yeah, it says to me as well. I completely agree. It feels like he's carrying a little bit of a knock, and they're just waiting to see after the international break, how it all pans out, I guess, for Ben White. Speaking of key players, though, Clive, Trossard. Let's talk about Leandro, because he has been sensational for us, and he seems to always come up clutch when we need him to.
Yeah, he does, and it's quite interesting watching the games of the weekend, Liverpool City, and you're watching those games, and everyone's talking about City's newfound balance, and Liverpool are striving for a balance. And I think the role that Trossard has now suits him, and the balance on that left-hand side absolutely is perfect for him. So we always used to compare him to, say, a Martinelli, and we think, he's not as quick, because our system demanded a bit of pace on both sides, and we used the wingers a lot. But in this system, he's got runners around him. So he's got Calafiori dancing around. He's got Declan Rice protecting him and running into areas. And he can almost sit in a pocket in there and just move and pass the ball to people that are moving. So he becomes really effective. He becomes more of a combination player. So this season, for the first of many seasons, we seem to have a left side and a right side at the moment. and Trossard's a big part of that. We all know that he can finish because we've got a big size of data now, but you also know he has one good game, one bad game. But I think the system and the balance has really changed on that side, and I think he's a key part of it. I think we're going to have a passer stroke and have runners on that side, and we all know that Eze can also do that role. He's in a pocket as a 10, a passer that can actually give it to people as well, but also get out of trouble with a ball carry. So I think it's about balance and about roles. I think the change of roles around him, Calafiori and Rice in particular, being more mobile and being more fluid, has really allowed him to show his strength. So I think it's a big plus for him. I think he fits the team more, and I think it's going to be a struggle maybe for Martinelli when he comes back. What's his role going to be? And then maybe the fullback combination will then change to more of a passing fullback to a running winger. So I think it's about combination and balance. And at the moment, the balance suits Trossard.
Yeah, it's great to have the two of them, though, because we've got one who's a stone cold finisher, I guess, and one who can run in behind. So we're blessed on the left-hand side. And as you mentioned, Eze can play there as well. Right, we've hit, yes, I can't believe I'm saying this. I want to celebrate when I'm saying it. We've hit our last international break of the year. It feels like there's one every 3 weeks at the moment. But now's a good time to reflect on how the season has gone so far. So I'll just give you the headlines. Obviously, games played 11, 8 wins, 2 draws, and only that one loss against Liverpool, which I'm still bitter about it. I won't lie, because that game had a draw written all over it, and it was a moment of magic which changed it. But it is what it is. So because of this, I decided that it might be a good idea for us to do some awards. And the thing that I love about awards is nobody ever agrees. So we'll find out if that is the case now or not. So I'm gonna start with most underappreciated player. And I'll go to Charles first.
Is this underappreciated by Arsenal fans or the wider football world?
Ooh, I would say by Arsenal fans. Let's keep it. This is inside Gooners, so let's keep it Arsenal related.
I mean, that's really hard. I just think everyone appreciates everyone in this team. There's just a lot of love for pretty much everyone in this team. I mean, I from the wider football world, I probably would have said Jurriën Timber, because I just really think a lot of people are sleeping on just how good he is. But as Arsenal fans, I would absolutely hope that we all know exactly how good he is, because we see it week in, week out. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would, with Arsenal fans, certainly in the start of the season, I would probably have said Leandro Trossard again there. But I think he's shown to everyone just how important he is. I mean, go back to the summer, people were, basically happy to push him out the door, as some people were. And when the news that he'd been given, a bit of a pay rise without an actual extension of the length of the contract, that really stirred the pot, certainly on social media anyway. But as Clive was saying, what he's shown in the whole season, but certainly in the last batch of games, is just how effective he can be, how important he can still be. I think he's shown a really good mindset to do that as well. He's come through. I'm sure he would have been aware of how he was viewed by some sections of the fan base, certainly in the summer. And to do what he's doing now, I think he deserves a huge amount of credit. So maybe I'd say him, but it's very tight. As I said, I think the fan base really does appreciate pretty much everyone in this team now.
Yeah, Clive?
Yeah, it's hard. I'm just going to pick a player so we can talk about him. Really. I think because I think we can all recognise what we have here, the quality of the squad. So I think, I'm not sure he's underappreciated, but I really appreciate what he's doing for us. I'm going to say Calafiori. I think we all knew he was a good player. And again, he can never last more than 2 games in a row, and his fitness declined throughout the season. But now he seems to have found a calf muscle, and he's out there on a regular basis. I think he's really transformed a lot of how he plays on the left-hand side. And I think it's just his movement and his general presence on the pitch and assurance when the ball comes. When the ball comes, no matter what angle it arrives, he's able to deal with it. He can threaten the goal. He can threaten the box. He can go on the outside. He receives on the inside. He just moves to the right-hand side of the pitch. I think when you look at football, and we all love our football, if you can think another left-back that does what he does, then I'm here all day, right? So I think he's unique. I really do. And a unique presence and his ability to finish. I just think he's excellent. I think he's challenging many structures about how we look at the game. And I think it's more to come. I really think his talent is absolutely sky high. And he might have been on that game. So correct me if I'm wrong, because Charles is better at numbers with me. Was he the youngest player on the pitch for us at that game? I think he may have been, right? And we forget how young he is, you know. So yeah, Charles is thinking, and this is it. He's a young player, and I just think he's doing so well.
I think he definitely was the youngest player on the pitch. Yeah, he would have been.
Charles.
Yeah.
I threw it at you, mate. I know your brain works.
I agree with Clive. I mean, I was watching Calafiori again at the Burnley game. He was where the press box was right down that flank in the first half. And it wasn't so much I was watching Calafiori, but I was watching the Burnley defenders and midfielders drop back to try and cover Calafiori. And they were all pointing to each other. They were like trying to pick him up. And he was confusing the hell out of them. Like, it must be so difficult to play against because you just don't know where he's going to go, who should be covering him. And that just creates space for others. I mean, everyone says it. He's a sort of, he creates chaos, doesn't he? And he genuinely does. When you watch the other team trying to pick him up, he's such a handful.
Yeah, he's a bit of a maverick as well, and he can definitely finish. He's got a good strike on him, that's for sure. Both great suggestions, by the way. Trossard was the one that I was going to throw in there, but then Calafiori, a great suggestion as well. You know, keeping Miles Lewis-Skelly out of the team, which I guess I'm not trying to influence you guys, may lead me on to the next category, which is who needs more minutes. And for this one, I will go to Clive first.
Well, I've been led to water, haven't I? So, but I think we probably all pick this player. I think from top of our heads, given recent stuff in the news, shall we say? I'll leave a bit of that for Charles on the table. So, so basically, I think Miles has done an amazing job in his career so far. So I was lucky enough to go to LA last summer, and he was just coming into the group, and I never thought that he'd end up being basically playing in the Bernabeu in the Champions League quarterfinals a few months later, and all of us wanting him to start. And that's how quickly it's happened for him. His appearances, particularly in Europe, have been really, really good. And I think he's done a fantastic job. But I also feel the game has just developed away from him slightly, not fully, just developed away from him slightly. And I think Trossard's having to play more minutes maybe doesn't quite suit that combination for him. And sometimes tactically you end up with a solution and it's just you're not the best person for that solution. But I also went to the Atletico Madrid game and watched him play in that game. And European games really suit his skill set. The referees are more friendly to him. He gets the fouls, whereas Michael Oliver will wave fouls away when he gets fouled, and it's a bit risky. The way he plays is a bit more risky in the Premier League. But I love how he plays in Europe, and where it's less aerial and less physical, shall we say. I think he's so suited to that. So we're lucky to have him. We just have to wait for the game to come back to him. You know, sometimes we go through tactical phases and it will come back to him. In the meantime, I'm hoping he can be working on his game, developing the parts of the game that he needs to. You know, shooting, maybe even dead ball taking, crossing. We all know he's working on that. And this is an opportunity as a young player to say, you know what, I've got here really fast. Now breathe, and can I develop on those parts of the game that make me undroppable? You know, and this is part of the challenge of football. It's not just a bed of roses. So don't stress too much about some of the stuff that's out there. Just hope he's developing, which I'm sure he will do, because his attitude is spot on.
Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I just absolutely agree with pretty much everything Clive's just said there. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about England at some point, but I'm not a massive fan of the noise that's sort of coming out there about Miles Lewis-Skelly at the moment. I don't think it's a very good look on the manager, first of all. And how it's been reported as well. But I don't have any massive concerns about Miles at the moment. I think there is an opportunity maybe for him to get a few more minutes. Like I said, I thought against Sunderland he could have come on. You know, he could have started in midweek against Prague, but then I understand you're trying to get Hincapié up to speed at the moment, and that was a good opportunity to get some proper minutes into his legs for probably the first time this season. But he's a 19-year-old kid who is, his career trajectory since breaking into around the first team has just been on that direction. You can't continue to go like that when you're not, you know, there's going to be bumps along the road. And at the moment, you know, he's at one of the biggest clubs in the world that is competing for the biggest trophies in the world. You're just not going to be guaranteed game time as a 19-year-old. You're not going to be guaranteed game time as a 20 to 27, 28 fully established international. So you've just got to bide your time a little bit. And it's a big learning process for someone like Miles Lewis-Skelly. And I think this could be a good thing for him at the moment, sort of realising, as Clive said, it's not a bed of roses all the time. There's going to be ups and downs. And, you know, Miles is attitude is fantastic. His support network around him is absolutely brilliant as well. So I'm not massively concerned. I mean, in answer to your question, I think he is probably the one I would like to see get a few more minutes. I mean, Ethan's up there as well. I think while Martin Odegaard was out, maybe Ethan could have been used a little bit more. But both of them, I don't have massive concerns over it, I have to say, at this stage.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers. I mean, I don't see it going the same way as Emil Smith-Rowe, but, Smith-Rowe was a fan favourite, and then he was out of the team mainly because of injury, and then couldn't find his way back in because the team moved on. I don't think it'll be the same for Miles Lewis-Skelly. I hope not anyway, because, he's just such a nice boy, but also a sensational talent. Right, next category then. I am going to go for what's impressed you the most so far this season. Maybe what or who, I guess. It's up to you. Interpret that how you will. Charles, we will start with you.
I mean, it's got to be the defence, really. It's not a massive surprise, I have to say, but, they've been so good, so solid. I mean, Gabriel's just been a monster in both boxes. And, yeah, I mean, it's just... I know we touched on it at the start. Sunderland was a slight little dip from what we've come to expect, but that is going to happen. But on the whole, they've just been the bedrock that they have built for this team. And so they deserve huge credit. But no, I mean, I suppose the forwards do as well, because there's been so many injuries, and yet they've found ways to win. They've been scoring goals. Trossard and Martinelli stepping up when they've really needed to, when a lot of people were writing them off in the summer. So there's lots of potential answers, I suppose, to that. But the defence, the way they've done it, the records they've broken, I mean, it's just been hugely, hugely impressive. So probably that.
Clive?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the centre midfield balance for Zubimendi and Rice together. I've really enjoyed it. And from pre-season, I think the Bilbao game, they started to play more as a sort of a double pivot as such, but with a lot more freedom. Sometimes they're ahead of the play, sometimes they're behind into the back four. I love what they've done and how they've worked together and coexisted. I think it's changed how we play significantly. I think it's allowed us to sort of overcome the missing of Odegaard, because Zubimendi's taken a lot of the creativity from that. And we haven't missed him as much, although we all know he's a top player. I think it's allowed Rice to be in positions behind the ball a lot more, where he can see the game, go forward and affect it when he feels it. I felt last year he was ahead of the ball too early and coming back into midfield, which isn't really his skill set. He's got real defensive alertness to really see what's happening, but also recognise when we need to drive forward and create momentums that way. So I think those two, I think they've changed how we play significantly by being sensible and forward-thinking with their passing. So, yeah, I really enjoyed them,
You guys have picked the perfect two answers for that, so I'll just throw a bit of it. Not a silly one, but just, it's kind of a little while back. But Andrea Berta coming in and just being able to... I don't want to say boss Mikel Arteta around, because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but they seem to have a really great relationship, and Berta seems to be able to steer Mikel Arteta in certain directions. Whether that's whether Mikel Arteta is fighting that or not, I don't know. But before Andrea Berta came in, it felt like Arteta was kind of the single person who decided what's what, whereas now it feels like a much more cooperative approach, which is great to see, and hopefully that will continue. Right, we're gonna do two more. I'll save the big one till last. The one that I'm gonna this one is quite big as well, I guess. Prediction for the rest of Arsenal's season, maybe league position, cup competitions we win. So I'm kind of trying to do this like an award ceremony, so you'll understand what I mean when I give you the last category. But prediction for the rest of Arsenal's season, Clive.
Oh, Clive.
Good luck, Clive.
Yeah, Charles was thinking, don't ask me. I'm thinking, yeah, I can only see one thing. I just want us to win the league, really. That's where I am. I think everything that we've done, all the changes that we've made, if you look at the club, we've made a lot of changes around the back room. I'm sure we're going to come on to that. Also, the players that we've signed, the players that we've re-signed, everything is pointing to one direction. We have a 3-year window that we've created for ourselves with player contracts to go and win some big stuff. And it needs to start this year. And if it does, I think the confidence it will give, maybe we underestimate it. I think we underestimate winning sometimes, We're so on this journey and we forget what it feels like to really win something big. You know, I happened to be at the Emirates when the women's won the Champions League, and I'd forgotten how great that feels. You know, and could you imagine that for the men's team winning the league or winning the Champions League? It'll be life changing for many people who haven't seen us do it before. You know, and so I do think to win the league this year is what I'm all focused on. So that'll be my prediction, shall we say?
Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loath to do a prediction because I'm a really superstitious guy. But I mean, as Clive said, for me, if there's one thing that I could win, if there's you can only win one trophy this year, I mean, I wouldn't want to limit myself to that. But if it was, it would be the Premier League. I just think it's the ultimate test. We've been so close the last few years. As Clive said, you know, there's a lot of people in that stadium now who've never seen it happen, who've never experienced what it feels like. The utter joy around the ground, outside the ground, in the ground, seeing a trophy being paraded around, and what it would give to this group of players and the confidence it would give for them. You know, there's an opportunity here with this team, as Clive says, with the contracts that have been renewed and the players who have been signed. There's an opportunity here. It will be difficult, but there's an opportunity to really, you know, go on and create a bit of an era. And I would just love to see them take that opportunity because they're good enough to. You know, they easily could have done it in the last couple of years, and they would have absolutely been worthy winners had they done it. And I just feel like they deserve it. I feel that the work that the club have done off the pitch deserves it. So, yeah, I mean, I predicted at the start of the season Arsenal would win the Premier League, and I'm not changing my prediction now. And I've seen nothing to make me question my decision in this early part of the season. Although there is obviously a long way to go.
I like the sound of that, Charles. Yeah, I mean, I'm completely in agreement with the two of you. You know, for me, the league. That's what I want. We would obviously never turn our noses up at the Champions League, let's be honest. But, you know, the league is what, you know, determines kind of how successful your season has been in terms of the endurance it takes to win the league. I'd love us to win both. You know, I'm not a superstitious person. I'll just say it on the podcast. Champions League and Premier League double. Bosh. There you go.
I tell you what, I do think the squad's good enough to do that. By the way, you know, it's absolutely well equipped to do that. It's, you know, we're talking about something the club has never done before, obviously, in winning the Champions League. So it's very hard, and you're going to have to beat some top teams to do it. But I do think, you know, we saw it last season. We were so close. You know, if we could go back and replay that first leg against PSG again, I would absolutely think we'd see a different scenario play out in that. So we were so close last season. We're definitely good enough to do it. But you need a lot of luck to go your way, and obviously, as last season showed, you need players fit at the end of the season when it comes to the big moments. But yeah, I wouldn't limit myself to just the Premier League. I think it's good enough to go on and win more than that. But that would be the one I go for.
Well, listen, after we smash Bayern Munich in a couple of weeks' time, then everyone will be feeling completely different, eh? Right. I can't wait for the comments on this. Right.
Charles Watts says Arsenal going for the league double. He's guaranteed it.
Guaranteed. Definitely haven't guaranteed it.
The last one we'll do, hopefully, will be less controversial. Just your player of the season so far, I guess. And I can't remember who went first. I think Clive went first last time, didn't he? So, Charles, It's over to you.
Oh, it's really tough, isn't it? I think probably Big Gabby. I think just for the impact he's had at both ends of the pitch, you know, he's such a leader. When you look at where he was a few years ago to where he is now, I mean, I genuinely think he's up there with in the conversation to be the best centre back in the world at the moment in terms of how he influences games at both ends of the pitch. He cut the errors out that he used to sort of every so often would pop into his game, and he's totally cut that out, really. And I just think he's been brilliant. But I think Declan Rice has been magnificent as well. As Clive said, Super Mendy's just been right up there with the signing of the summer in terms of Premier League players as well. So there's a lot of players who could be up there for it, but I think probably my pick would be Gabriel.
Clive?
Yeah, Charles has left me timber on the table, so I'm going to take it. I think he's been excellent. It's easy to say that he's been excellent, but that right-hand side is so reliant on Odegaard, and he's come in there and just provided so much attacking impetus. His box touches and box entry numbers are really, really high. We all thought the Saka Odegaard White thing was no one would get near it, and he's just come along and he's doing almost two jobs, you know. And defensively, he's without peer, in my opinion. You know, he gets so tight to people, just tears through them and takes the ball off them and just runs away. And he's like, if you watch some of the games, I remember watching the Anfield game, and I was a bit nervous, and First ball goes into the winger, and he just goes straight for him. Just takes it and just runs away. I'm thinking, oh, we're here now. And it gives me such confidence that we're such a robust team and such a strong team to really match anybody in these wide areas. So I think it's been magnificent. I think he would have been one of the underappreciated players for maybe last season, but I think we all really appreciate him now. So it's not a surprise. And I just wish he never got that injury, because I truly believe if he'd have been playing that season, we'd have won the league that season. Just give me 25 games. It would have been enough. To go out in the first game, I think we now know how big that really was.
Yeah, I agree. I was nailed on that title would have been Arsenal's if he hadn't got it.
Yeah.
You know, we missed out by a point that season. Imagine having Timber for half of those games. It was absolutely, I agree, 100%.
Yeah, imagine having the defensive record we've had this season. You both, picked two worthy winners there. I'll just throw my hat into the to the Gabriel ring, just because he's so important for us. He gets goals, but he's also absolutely incredible at the back. But Timber also a worthy winner for sure. Right, let's move on then and have a look at some of the current affairs flying around the Emirates this week. And we'll start with the fact that Arsenal are in advanced negotiations to appoint Napoli head of scouting Maurizio Micheli. So, Charles, how positive is this, I guess, and how will it shape / potentially change Arsenal's recruitment?
I mean, it's tough to say right now how it will change. I don't think it will massively change, but it's just another really experienced, impressive guy to come in to the club. There's been a lot of change in the recruitment of late. Obviously, Andrea Berta's come in. We've seen people move out. James Ellis moved up to technical director. Mark Curtis moved sort of up the chain of command as well when it comes to recruitment. So we've seen a big sort of change, and Andrea Berta was very keen to bring in, I've forgotten his name off the top of my head, the guy from Juventus last, Togsoli, I think his name was, something like that. Yeah. And in the summer, that didn't end up happening. And now, obviously, they've turned to Micheli. And I can't say I'm an absolute expert on him, but in the sort of trying to learn about him and what he's done, you speak to people over in Italy, former colleagues of mine at Goal who, absolutely say he's done brilliant work, and he's really credited with the wonderful things that Napoli have done over recent years. So it's an exciting addition, really exciting addition. I mean, everything that Andrea Berta has touched has pretty much turned to gold so far since he's arrived at Arsenal. So hopefully this is just another one that you can sort of have a nice little tick against his name in about sort of 6 months to a year's time. And he's uncovered some really good players during his time as Italy, and if he can find another Kvaratskhelia for Arsenal over the next few years, that'd be very handy.
Yeah, that's for sure. Right, let's move on to England and these comments about Miles Lewis-Skelly, I guess. He's insisted that he needs more minutes to be getting into the England squad, and says it's not good enough to be a good tourist. Clive, interesting comments. I mean, look, we know the England manager, Thomas Tuchel, is quite outspoken. He's not been afraid to shake the feathers, I guess, of different club managers and clubs since he's come in. What did you make of his comments, though?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like them, but then again, he said some things about Jude Bellingham, who's a very established England player, and that were quite strong. And we had to row back on some of those things, and so it's the way he is. And he's setting up his selection criteria. He hasn't got a long contract, so he doesn't care about anyone's feelings at the moment. He cares about making sure people understand what the requirements are to build a winning team for the World Cup next year, and that's the only thing he's going to be judged on. Second place is not enough for him, so there's going to be a few casualties along the way. I am a little bit disappointed that this is pointing towards a 19-year-old, just in his early stage of his career. But but if he's going to be consistent with that, that's his right to do so. He also has given positive things about his character, which I think is good. But Arsenal fans, we're not silly, right? When we see something like this happen and look at the player and we think, oh, he's not getting a lot of minutes, we've had one of the greatest spends we've ever had in the summer, and we can do maths. And we think, oh, maybe this is the start of a sale. I mean, none of us want to see that sale for PSR reasons. And so this thing starts to whir around in the airways, and I hope that negativity goes away. If it's not just Miles is going to get destabilised, but other players are going to get destabilised. As we get better and we start to zero in on a starting 11, there's going to be more players that are going to be challenged and about moving on potentially. And I think this is something we have to be really strong for mentally, because people are going to want to destabilise the group from the outside. We just have to brush it off, stay tight, and think forward, and make sure that our goals are clear to get what me and Charles want, the league, right? So and what we all want. So I think it's very important we don't get too sensitive about outside noise, stay really strong inside, and stay to our plan. I think it's so important.
Charles, is there a worry now, though, that, because playing for England, look, as Clive has just said, he's only 19, right? And to achieve what he's achieved in this amount of time is amazing. But he's had a taste for it now. So is there a worry that, this amount of pressure from, your nation's head coach may cause Miles Lewis-Skelly to start looking elsewhere, and his agent? You know how it works behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, not really. I have to say, maybe with some other players, I would potentially have that thought, but not with Miles. Especially with the sort of people who are around Miles. I think that they're very, very level-headed. They understand, the progress he's made and where he is. He's at his club. He's got a chance of, he'll be looking at, what can we achieve this season? He'll know how close Arsenal are to achieving great things, and he'll absolutely want to be a part of that. And so I don't really worry. I don't like the sort of narrative that seems to be coming out, the noise that's coming out around him, I have to say, mainly because of his age. But it almost feel like there's extra pressure being put on Miles. I was like, you've got to, if you want to go to the World Cup, you've got to be playing more minutes. He's out in the cold. He's played about 13 games in all comps this season, albeit, very few starts. But he is playing, he is involved, and he's going to be heavily involved between now and the end of the season. I'm absolutely sure of that. There are minutes there for Miles to have, and he will have them. He will be an important part in what Arsenal are going to do in the second half of the season. And so I'm not massively concerned. I'm just more a little bit annoyed, and maybe that's me just looking at it with my Arsenal hat on, that you're kind of protective of these players, and you don't want to see the pressure being put on them from anyone outside the club. I get as exactly what Clive said about Tuchel. His only thought is, I've got to win the World Cup. So I don't really care who I annoy, how I annoy them. If I don't win the World Cup, I'm not going to be here in a year's time. So it doesn't really matter. And he is a very sort of front foot manager, front foot coach. He doesn't really care what he says and how it's perceived in the media at all. But I just feel he's a little bit young, Miles, to be putting that sort of pressure on him. And it's a little bit unsettling for him and for Arsenal fans as well, who now have to sort of see these stories being created of, Premier League clubs are interested in Miles Lewis-Skelly. Of course they are. He's a brilliant player. They're going to be interested. But there's no way Arsenal are going to entertain doing any business, certainly in January anyway, when it comes to him. So I'm not massively concerned on it. I'm just a little bit more annoyed than concerned, I think, is how I feel.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing to say, though, isn't it, from the England manager? It's not enough to be a good tourist when, I don't want to single players out or anything, but for a long time, Henderson has been getting into the England squad, not really based off of performances, more for what he brings to the table behind the scenes, Clive.
Yeah, I think we just should take this at the moment. I think Nico O'Reilly at City has had more starts recently, and he's a good player, and at least he's not behind players that are not as good as him. Shall I say? I think he's just part of elite sport. I don't like it, but I can't stop it. You see what I mean? I can't stop it. What can we control as a group of fans? We can control how we react to these things. And I think there's a bit of a reaction to the Sky story yesterday. Where does that come from? That tends to be my thing, really. Where does this come from? But Arsenal fans have rallied round, and I think they'll rally around Miles. And I think he'll be absolutely fine with coming through this. I looked at the December schedule. Just take a look at it. It seems like we're playing every 2 days, it looks to me. And the quality of games we've got coming up with Bayern Munich coming up, that's going to take a bit of pressure. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some physicality out of players that are playing that game. So the next game becomes something that really important. You can't keep playing the same players. So he spoke about Ben White, spoke about Miles. There are minutes coming. It's just impossible for the same group to continue through. And I think the most important thing, the lesson that we've learned from last season, is to be there in April and May, not just with players on the pitch, but in the right condition. We all saw Saka not in the right condition at the Bernabeu, and he still played well, but we know him. He wasn't properly fit. I think that's the key. So players like Miles are going to get their chance. And when they get their chance, that would lead to England chances. He's got to stay confident. I saw a list of clubs that are looking at him on loan. One of them was Nottingham Forest, Everton. Come on, that is not a story. You know, that isn't what you do with your career. What you do with your career is you stay with the club. It's the best team at the moment. And one of the reasons why we looked at one of the favourites for the league is the squad which you are part of. So the better days are ahead for him. I'm not even worried at all.
Yeah. Right, we've got to wrap up shortly, but just before we do, the next 5 fixtures: Tottenham at home, Bayern Munich at home, Chelsea away, Brentford at home, Aston Villa away. Let's put Bayern Munich aside because I just want to focus on the Premier League for now. Those 4 fixtures then: Tottenham, Chelsea, Brentford, Aston Villa. What's a good points return? What do you hope to see from those games, I guess? Because, you know, they're dangerous games, especially against Spurs and Chelsea, and Manchester City very much on the charge at the moment. So, Charles, what do you want from those 4 games?
12.
Go on, Charles.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I joke, but that's what I want. Absolutely, that's what I want, and I think it's achievable with this team. Absolutely, I'm not saying they'll do it, but you know, they won't be worried about any of those games. They'll be looking forward to it, and what a brilliant way to come back. I mean, I'm sure that Sunderland result's going to hurt them. It's going to sting during the international break, and what a perfect way to come back and respond to that than against Tottenham in the North London derby. You'd actually rather be playing Tottenham at Tottenham right now rather than at home, given how bad they are at their own ground. So, but yeah, I mean, I found if Arsenal play well, they turn up, and you know, nothing stupid happens like a red card, then I absolutely think they'll get 6 points from the 2 home games they've got coming up in that run, and then it's about what can you do away from home and how can you handle it. They're 2 really difficult games. I think they got 4 points from those 2 games last season, didn't they? A draw at Chelsea, and they went and won at Aston Villa really well at the start of the season. So it's going to be tough, but yeah, I mean, look, 10 or 12 points would be great. Obviously, I mean, great. 12 would be perfect, but if you get 10 points from those, I think you can be very happy with the work you've done.
Clive.
Yeah, so I'm one of these people that actually think the international break came at a really good time for us. I think we'd sort of struggled a little bit. Not say struggled. We know we had some injuries, and we managed to get through those games. And we're a couple of minutes away from being perfect in the last block of games. The next block, we know is a little bit more higher quality teams we're playing against, so the squad would be needed. So they've now got a couple of weeks to get super sharp, and I think we're going to be fine in these set of games. I think we're going to be ready. We're able to make changes, particularly offensively, to really keep teams where we want them to be. So I'm with Charles, mate. 12 points. I think I think we're going to realise what the last block of games have. I think they've set us up a platform to really do something. Now we've got players back. So how good are we with everybody there? How together are we? And this moment's coming now, so I can't wait for it. Can't wait for the Spurs game. Can't wait.
Listen, that's a perfect point for us to end, I think, on that positivity. 12 and a 12 from Charles and from Clive. That's all we've got time for on today's Inside Gooners. Thank you, of course, for your company. And thank you to Clive Palmer and to Charles Watts. We will see you on the next one. Happy international break.